What's going on, guys? Crypto Renegade again here for you, and in today's video I'm going to talk about why Bitcoin's price is not even a factor. You're not even going to be able to buy it in 3 years. But before I jump into the content, I just updated my free new ebook, 7 Best Ways to Secure Your Crypto, updated for 2021. It's 100% free, so go ahead and check that out in the description below, and it will also be pinned in the comments. All right, let's go. All right, guys, welcome back. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about a very key aspect of Bitcoin that doesn't really get a lot of mainstream attention. And this is the fact that there is a surge in demand for institutions stepping in to buy all the miners' newly minted Bitcoin, which causes the driving of the price up, which is supply and demand. But what happens if the miners start hodling themselves instead of dumping it on the exchanges to help pay for expenses like they normally do? And what happens if there's virtually no coins available on the exchanges to buy at all for individuals or corporations? This is not designed to be FOMO for the price going up, although that's a natural side effect. This is about not being able to literally get any Bitcoin even if you wanted it, regardless of what the price is. Consider the following. There is only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. It's estimated that approximately 3 million of these already circulating Bitcoin that has either been lost or otherwise inaccessible forever due to loss of private keys and or incorrectly sending it to an improper address, not to mention about 1 million coins being held by Satoshi himself. But check out these predictions for Bitcoin in 2018 after the first mainstream market cycle crash.
There's no value, it's a bubble, and I promise you, and you're right, it could go to 50,000, it could go to 100,000, but I'm certain that at the end of the day, it will end up close to zero.
The greatest scam in history, adding that it's a pump and dump scheme like anything the world has ever seen. You might remember he appeared on our show to discuss that. Now he's back with an even bolder call, saying Bitcoin is headed straight to zero.
I don't think I said it's going to zero. I said it's going to go eventually a whole lot closer to zero than a lot, because there's just no value there.
We all saw how that turned out. All these old rich white guys keep saying it has no value and you're an idiot if you ever buy Bitcoin. Now you can see how they've changed their tune. In reality, they have been misleading you this entire time so that they can scoop it all up themselves on the cheap, which has now been evidenced via on-chain analytics firm Glassnode. In the US, the government has printed over $4 trillion since March 2020 and has plans to print 3 trillion more for an infrastructure play for their green agenda. Now, that comment I just made is not politically motivated, but more so a comment on the economic consequences of unlimited money printing. So, when the money printer goes brr,
is the Fed just going to print money?
That's literally what Congress has told us to do. There's enough cash in the financial system, and there's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve, an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve, an infinite amount of cash.
No, you can't just print more money.
I saved the economy.
We're trillions of dollars in debt. The debt to GDP ratio is out of control. Who's going to pay for it?
Haha. Money printer go brr.
who do you think ends up paying for all of this? You do, we all do, via inflation, and by the rate we are going, it will most likely be hyperinflation. Bitcoin is having a supply crisis. While the total amount of Bitcoin is increasing over time, as more is mined every single day, the amount of available supply on exchanges, otherwise known as liquidity, has been declining, and this makes it harder or more expensive for new investors to buy Bitcoin. According to Glassnode, the supply of Bitcoin held on exchanges has dropped 20% since January 2021. It's a trend that can be seen across all exchanges. The Bitcoin may have been sent away to long-term storage, to custodian solutions, or for larger investment funds. But crucially, it means less available to trade. In fact, less than 13% of all Bitcoin in existence is currently held on crypto exchanges, and available to trade. Glassnode also tracks the amount of Bitcoin that's liquid or freely available to trade, as opposed to illiquid, where it's held off of exchanges and not available to buy. Here too, the amount of liquid Bitcoin has been declining, with just 12% of the total supply remaining as liquid. Illiquid entities spend less than 25% of the BTC they receive, acting as a supply sink in the network. If you look at the fundamentals, if you look at the infrastructure, if you look at the custodial services, everything is moving forward. The possibilities for institutional investors are evidently greater today than they were in 2017. Firstly, almost a third of total Bitcoin isn't in circulation. Nearly 15% of all Bitcoin is being held in accumulation addresses by people that are true hodlers. Add that to the total of lost Bitcoin, which common estimates put about 3 million, as I mentioned, and that means approximately 30% of all Bitcoin isn't really available. More importantly, however, is Bitcoin's looming liquidity crisis. According to the Glassnode CEO, the supply of Bitcoin on exchanges has fallen by 20% since January, as I mentioned. That's pretty big. In other words, Bitcoin is increasingly being moved into long-term storage. They're definitely using a hardware wallet, by the way, and away from the exchanges themselves. What's more, 14.4 million Bitcoin, equivalent to 78% of the total Bitcoin supply, is being held by illiquid entities. With only 12% of Bitcoin's total supply being held by liquid entities, this metric shows that 2020 caused a perpetual strain on Bitcoin's liquidity. Illiquid entities spend less than 25% of the BTC they receive, as I mentioned previously. Just wanted to put those statistics out there. The supply crisis, as I call it, will have an impact on price, but it doesn't necessarily prevent retail investors or smaller investors from getting into the space. This is why I'm not surprised that the demand will only be greater and the liquid supply will continue to drop, and this is only why it's going to be even harder to get it. The data doesn't lie. Look to the politicians and media to do that. Wrapping this up, my theory is that by 2024, the Bitcoin halving, the liquidity on exchanges will be extremely limited, and even if there is an ETF or if derivatives for Bitcoin go mainstream, its economic model will not be able to meet investors' demands, retail or institutional. The Bitcoin blockchain's third halving last May cut the price of mining rewards to 6.25 BTC for every data block, roughly every 10 minutes, from 12.5 BTC. At the same time, big Wall Street firms like Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, and BlackRock are now dabbling in cryptocurrencies, while the payment giants PayPal, Square's Cash App have allowed their users to buy and sell the digital assets. Same with the news that Elon Musk has just announced that you can now buy a Tesla with Bitcoin, and that's a very bullish signal. And proof that these billionaires are getting creative with new ways to start accumulating Bitcoin outside of directly purchasing it. The next BTC halving will happen in May of 2024, approximately. The incoming supply then cuts from the current 6.25 BTC reward block down to 3.125 BTC per block. Most people take for granted that the fact that the supply reduces and that it's not a big deal that they can just buy it at a later time. Even when the price inevitably exceeds $1 million per coin, yes, 1 million per coin, people won't be selling something that they know they won't ever be able to buy again. If you're still not convinced, enjoy this remix, and I will see you guys in the next video.
You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, up.
So what do you guys think? Are you gonna start accumulating or getting more BTC now that you know there is more urgency? If not, why not? Let me know down in the comments below. And then go ahead and click right here to watch my video on why Polkadot will be over $1,000 soon. See you guys in that video. Crypto Renegade out.